Hey everyone, it's Gary. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Hang on a second. I'm in Athens, Georgia right now. Famous for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's a big college town, but also lots of great musicians that come from Athens, Georgia. One of the ones you probably are familiar with is REM. Back in the 80s, I think that was. I think I saw them. My gosh, I was either a senior in college or just got out of college. So in any case, that's where I am tonight, and I'll of course be in Georgia for the week here and for the remainder of the month. So in any case, we are live but not recording. So if you're relatively new to any one of the programs, you just hang tight for a second. We're going to let everybody get a chance to log in, and I'll go over some housekeeping. Hang on one second. I think we're actually recording. Let me stop this real quick. Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Welcome to all of you students, new and veteran. No matter where you're from, we should have a lot of Carolinians on here, South Carolina, North Carolina, of course, Virginia, and now in Georgia. I see there's several. New Jersey's well represented, okay, and also several people from scattered around the country, including obviously Florida. Let's see, California, my gosh. Colorado, Idaho, awesome, got a great mixture of people. Canada, how about that? Okay, so tonight's subject is about commercial real estate, but we're going to bring it down to the level that most of you are at. Some of you are starting to bridge that gap between residential and commercial. Residential being anything up to and including 4 units, residential, people living there, okay? Anything non-owner occupied, or excuse me, anything non-residential or residential 5 units or more is by definition commercial. Okay, that's true almost everywhere I've been. The way we treat it, insurance, zoning, occupancy, finance, all those related factors, okay? So what we're talking about tonight is I'm going to go over some content from the commercial world, excuse me, and apply it to the level that most of them are at. So in other words, not many of us are dealing with properties that are, 10, 20 million or above. Most of you are dealing with properties in million or below. But also I'll bring this down to like neighborhood strip malls, things like that, small storage facilities, vacant land, let's see, small office space, things like that, to make it more applicable for our discussion and for our group. So in any case, a little bit of housekeeping. For the newer folks, you notice you're by default in mute mode. Okay, that's by design because we can't all be speaking at the same time, obviously. However, I will unmute you from time to time, okay? And we use the question box for your questions. So let me type in my first question to you, which is, can you see my, oops, sorry, can't type here, see my screen and hear my voice? So if you can respond to that, just to let me know on your end that everything's okay. And I'll open up your question box so I can see that. So everybody says they're okay so far, so good. Excellent. We do have a question here. See, Daryl says, I am meeting with David Specht from KW Commercial on the 18th. Excellent. So years ago, Daryl, boy, this goes back, my gosh, I don't know how many years now. When I did my merger with KW, Dave Specht was part of those conversations, and he may remember a guy named David Bradley. I hired him from Marcus Millichap. He was a big commercial guy there. Brought him into the fold in the merger with KW, and they were using him right away to help with some commercial stuff. So he might remember my name. He might remember Dave Bradley's name, but tell him I said hello, okay? Any case, so how about that for timing, Daryl? We got a great subject for you, huh? So let's see. There's another question, Jackie. Hi, Gary, nice to see you. What days you will be in New Jersey? So Jackie, the schedule for New Jersey, we've already started getting dates lined up, is going to be Monday, July 30th through Friday, August 3rd that week, the week of the 6th through the 10th, the week of the 13th of August. Now, the week of the 13th, Jackie, I won't be able to teach on the 16th or 17th. In fact, that's Mega Camp week. But I will be teaching on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week. And the following week, the week of the 20th, those are actually already scheduled. Jersey City, Woodcliff, and Ridgewood, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, respectively. And then I'll probably teach Thursday. Not sure that might be Maplewood, but we've got a 3-day event coming up in northern New Jersey to the west of Newark on the 24th, 25th, and 26th that you guys are all going to be invited to. So in any case, that's the schedule there for New Jersey. So I'll look forward to running into you, Jackie, if it's possible. That'd be great. So in any case, I'm going to check for questions here real quick, guys, before we get started. And just a reminder, administratively, every day after we do one of these, yeah, Fassel, I think I did tell you. Did I tell you I got Ridgewood set up? I do. That's it. Wednesday, August 27th, man. So new team leader from when I was there before, but Holly, I think her name is, but sounds pretty positive. So in any case, real brief housekeeping, guys. So every day after we do a webinar, Beverly's going to send a recording of it. Please make sure you get the recording, but also read the email because she gives you some valuable updates, information relative to either the training platform, Digital Chalk, or the membership area. This is myinvestmentservices.com, silver level. Also the community site, and so not just system changes, but content changes. And we are doing basically a system, what I guess you call it, an overhaul, but we're actually installing a new LMS system, learning management system, in the second half of this year. So I'll keep you posted on the details there. And we do always, of course, add new content. Sometimes it comes in chunks and waves. And what you're seeing here tonight is one of those chunks and one of those waves. I'm going to give it to you guys in its basic raw form, but eventually it'll be part of the training material. And you guys don't have to pay for it. You get this all as part of part of your dues, part of your tuition. So, in any case, look for the email from Beverly. Just gave you my schedule for August. For July, well, I did tell you June I'll be in Georgia all of June. The week after we do our Georgia event at the end of June, we have a mastermind retreat on that following Monday and Tuesday, July 2nd and 3rd. And from there, I'll be taking off the rest of the week. But the week after that, guys, I'll be in Nashville the entire week of July 9th. And then I'll be in and around Indianapolis the following week, the week of the 16th. Then I take off the week of the 23rd. And of course, after that's when I'm in New Jersey. So that's my schedule. I don't think there's anything else administratively. Oh, I do want to tell you, this was kind of, with the 3-day event, it's generally about 40 spots that they make available. Of course, I'm in Georgia, and we got a lot of market centers here. And I think as of the weekend, before we even registered any Georgians, we already had 16 people register. What happened is we opened it up to everybody in Orlando in March, and didn't really promote it much in Florida like we should have. In any case, in April we had the 3-day event in Northern Virginia, and it was all Virginians. We didn't promote it at all to anybody outside of Virginia because we knew the head count would probably exceed what we had available to us. And I mean, some of you were there, which was great. I appreciate that. You kind of got in under the wire. What we're doing here is actually both. So Georgians obviously are invited because we're here teaching in Georgia. And so are all of you who are not in Georgia. The challenge is, guys, is 16 of those spots just in the first week have already been taken. And I think the room block that they saved for us, they gave us a great deal. It's a regular Marriott, not like Courtyard or Fairfield Inn or one of those. It's the just below the JDW brand. So they're pretty nice. And they gave us $99 a night. So if you want to go, the 14th is when they expire the room block. I mean, we might be able to pressure them to extend it if you guys really need to. But I would, if you could, just look for the information in the email from Beverly. I think it went out last week, and right away 16 of you signed up. So thank you for doing that. Congratulations. I think if you talk to people that have been here like Fassel and Daryl and Tom, they'll tell you it's a lot of fun, obviously. But man, we learn a lot, guys. I mean, it's jam-packed. We don't fool around. We go. This is not a boondoggle. If you really want to ramp up your business and meet people from all over, come on aboard. Okay. And I'll be glad to see you all again too, by the way. So, in any case, enough of that. We got some content to get into tonight. And if you have any questions on the event, just text me, email me, put a question in your question box here. Okay. In any case, commercial. First things first. Most of what we discuss has to do with residential properties. In other words, properties that are non-owner occupied and they're lived in by either tenants or owners. Okay. What I'm going to talk about tonight are properties that are non-owner occupied, but also non-residential, typically, right? Now, what's interesting is a lot of people lean towards the residential when it comes to investing, but I'm one of them. I've had retail, I've had office space, I've had beauty shops, garages, all kinds of stuff, and storage too. And I just prefer residential. I'm not against the other commodities. That's not the case at all. In fact, I will tell you, you're going to learn something really kind of startling tonight, which is it turns out retail, between like office space and retail, a lot of people think office space, man, that's the way to go because, my gosh, people are coming in 9 to 5, they work, nobody's there doing any damage during the evenings, and they all pay the rent because they're all businesses. It turns out historically, retail, little strip malls, big malls, shopping centers, are actually less risky. How about that? So first things first, I want to go over a few basics. You'll see this in what's on my screen here. Fundamentally, I just made up a new word. Fundamentally speaking, most non-owner occupied, non-residential properties, i.e. purely commercial properties, are there for one of two reasons. Number one, they have a product to offer or a service to offer. Okay, no matter what they're doing, they're coming down to those two categories, and we can fit every type of business operation in one of those two categories, right? So, in fact, I think that says it here right up towards the top. Doesn't matter if it's a little teeny single-use building or a giant super regional mall like Mall of America out in Indianapolis. Okay. So, in any case, the reality is when you work with people who are investing in those types of properties, it helps you if you're an agent to understand certain fundamental rules about valuation, which we're going to go over tonight. Okay. I'm not going to get into a lot of heavy detail. I'm just going to give you the concepts and give you the material tomorrow so you'll have it at your disposal. For example, people who have retail operations where they're selling a product or they provide a service, which is the two categories, of course. They're very interested in a few things like population density, not just how dense and how much and how many, but how far out in centrifugal bands the population goes. Also, traffic counts, how many people drive by their business every single day. How about foot traffic, things like that. Lots of factors we'll talk about here tonight. And it's also, when you learn this, you're going to realize that it's really common sense. It's not that complex. Once you understand things, the old adage is, everything we know in life and what we learn is already there. The truths are already there. We just have to discover those truths, and that's all we're doing. Okay, learning process is a process of discovering what's already there. All right. Actually, how many of you does that help? By the way, when I first heard that from a college professor years ago, it really helped me a lot. Gave me more confidence. By the way, matter of fact, give me some feedback on that. I might use that in my in the classes. So, anyways, back to this. If you look here, you'll see right this paragraph right here. First reason retail properties are considered more risky is that more than 50% are single tenant. In fact, most retail properties are single tenant properties. I mean, I'm in Athens, Georgia. Certainly there's strip malls and things like that, but I drove by a number of places out in the rural areas that are single purpose buildings. Okay. When I had dealt with commercial properties, I did that to an extent, but I preferred having properties that were mixed use, a number of different operations, any structure, any particular piece of land. Okay. So in any case, the reality is, though, what's interesting is people, historically, investors have deemed retail to be more a little bit safer than office. I know there's some good reasons for that, which we'll get into here in a minute. So, in any case, let's go, and I know the context here is telling you things like retail's more risky because of layoffs, things like that. Well, believe me, um, when people get laid off in offices, those people are sweating bullets, okay? Um, also, retail is considered more cyclical because of the spending patterns of people during a recession versus boom times, things like that. So in any case, let's go ahead and take a look at this and determine where people want to be when they're conducting business, okay? When they look at a certain area, they're determining things, at least what we call the market area or trade area, based on the indoor approach, population expenditure approach, customer spotting approach, and drive time approach. So let's just look at each of those in order. Then we'll move on to the next category and talk about how we look at those properties and determine where our investors want to be, okay? So the indoor approach, which is essentially the drive-by approach, I'm going to go ahead and skip through some of the text because I think there's a great graphic here, if I'm not mistaken. But what it does is it shows you how much traffic you need, how much traffic this investor needs to go by his property to be profitable, okay? So here's the example I wanted to get to. Let's say a store needs $6,000 a day in sales volume to succeed, okay? And the average sale is about $150. So what that means is, a few more factors. Of the customers who enter the store, 50%, only 50% make a purchase, okay? But the drivers who pass by the store, 0.2% enter the store. Now, this seems low, but believe it or not, that's actually a pretty accurate figure on average. So the reality is this: it takes $6,000 sales volume per day that's needed to succeed, divided by 150, which is your average sale, which means you need 40 sales per day. Okay. Well, if only half the people walking in the store are purchasing, that means we need 80 people to walk in the store. All right. Assuming that 0.2%, of the drivers that come by actually enter the store, what that means is you need 25,000 cars a day to pass by that store to make it a viable operation. So if you and I own a corner grocery store, and these are our figures, we need 6,000 a day to survive, and $150 a sale, say grocery store, right? That's what I said. So 40 sales. We need to be in our intersection where 25,000 cars pass by every day. Well, here's the good news. We don't have to look very far to find these figures. We can find out there's lots of publications and journals that tell us the traffic count for different parts of town. Matter of fact, you can usually call your Chamber of Commerce and they'll give you the information for free. Sometimes it's on their website. So we're looking for basic traffic going by the property. We know we need 25,000 cars. All we do is we look that information up and see where we have traffic patterns to deliver 25,000 drive-bys per day. Okay, does that make sense? So if you could give me some feedback there, I just want to, before I move on, I've got a lot I want to cover, so I don't want to do all too much. I just want to make sure that you grasp what I just said there. I know it's a pretty straightforward example. And again, you're going to get all this tomorrow in an email from Beth, okay? So, all right, looks like we're okay on questions. So let's go ahead and jump into the next category, okay? Which is a population/expenditure approach. So the reality is this. Let's look at this example right here. Let's say a store needs $2.5 million in annual gross sales to be supported. And on the products offered in the store, $75 is the average spent per person, okay? So if you divide $2.5 million by $75, that means you need 33,500 people that live in a market area or trade area of the store. All right, as a result of this information, the store must be located where it can serve 33,500 people. Well, guess what? There was an approach called the customer spotting approach that actually tells us this. Again, you can find this through several different publications. And what it does is it tells us in centrifugal bands the density of this 33,500 people. Okay, 60% here in the middle. The middle band is, sort of the next outer band is 10% of the people. 30% is the next outer band after that, out to 5 miles out. So in other words, we've kind of made an assumption here that on average, people aren't going to drive more than 5 miles to do what they need to do. Okay, so if whatever that assumption is, we need to apply this to your market area and determine what the customer spotting approach is. And this tells us if we've got a good enough area, a building in the right area for this particular retailer to make a profitable business. Okay, if I may make a suggestion, just write down these terms. Customer spotting approach. Here, let me go back to the first one. I gave you the one that's in the text. So release first singer from the same song sheet. Okay, the in the door approach, which is your drive-by approach. Okay. Then you got the populations divided by expenditure approach. That's the second approach. Okay. So the third approach coming up here. Actually, hang on a second. I see a question popping up. So let's see. This is from. We got a couple questions. Fassel. Hey, Fassel. Hey, Fassel. I wanted to tell you, Beverly's basement was flooded Sunday night in some storms, and she wasn't working yesterday or today. I mean, I texted her, quite frankly, yesterday, and I guess was lucky to get a response back. So I haven't been able to run by her what I want to run by her. So Fassel's asking, very interesting. Didn't know this information. Thank you. Tom Slaterbeck. Okay. Waze app gives you the drive-by count. Yeah. There's what's interesting is more and more apps have become available to us on our phones. You don't have to go to the websites as much anymore. If you're on the fly, if you're out on the road, man, pick up your phones and everything's at your fingertips, it seems like anymore. Okay. Now let's go back here. So let's do this. There's more information I'm going to give you here, and we'll move on to the next subject, right? We already talked about this assumption, right? The fact that industry average is 5, if people will drive 5 miles or less to shop for similar stores, okay? After using the point of sale information and survey results, where retailer finds 50% of their customers in the store come from within 3 miles, 10% within between 3 and 5 miles, and 40% come up to 5 miles. So it just tells us what we just said, which is a store owner should do his homework before he decides to rent that property from the investor. Okay. Now here's the drive time approach, and again, the pretty straightforward concept. The example is pizza. Studies indicate people will drive only 5 minutes to pick up a pizza, or wait only 10 minutes for pizza delivery. Well, I don't know about that. Remember Domino's, the 30-minute or free guarantee? They stopped that years and years ago. But the funny thing is, they're saying, fresh hot pizza, 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. They haven't done that for years because of some lawsuits. People were literally getting in accidents, right? Trying to get these pizza to the people who are hungry on time. But that's what we still remember. And that goes back to the 80s. That's been like 30, almost 40 years now, okay? So in any case, if the pizza industry says 10,000 people in a market to support a pizza store, then a representative of a pizza company is actually driving the streets to determine the market or area. How far can the driver get in 10 minutes going north, south, east to west, okay? After plotting these points on a census tract map, and by the way, you can get this from uscensus.gov, okay? And in Canada, it's Stats Canada, right? To more than 10,000 people, the location should work. So in any case, I'm gonna go through the text here because these are just other examples like ABC stores, McDonald's, things like that. There are some publications though I want you to write down here. ICSC.org, okay, International Council of Shopping Centers. There's some more I'll give you here in a second, but there's information that these publications give you and these websites give you that you don't have to actually pay for. A lot of it's free. If they want you to subscribe, obviously, and if you're dealing a lot more commercial properties, you may want to get these publications, okay? So in any case, when it comes to shopping centers, there's 8 basic types. We're going to focus more on neighborhood centers and community centers, okay? Some regional centers, you've got that's your big, Lowe's, used to be Walmart, let's call it Sam's Club now because now Walmart's everywhere. Home Depot, things like that, okay? Super regional centers, fashion specialty centers, power centers, theme festival center. Obviously, that's going to be your Disneyland, Disney World, Universal, things like that. Okay. About Schlitterbahn down in Texas. Anybody been there before? Okay. And your big giant outlet centers, which seem to be, I've been in all 48 of the lower 48 states in 3 Canadian provinces in the last 3 years. I can't tell how many places I've seen that said, you know, the world's only outlet center. Seems like they're in every major intersection anymore, but they're out there and they're huge. Okay. So in any case, let's just go through this, and I want to go into some more analytics here before we can call this a day. Okay, neighborhood centers, pretty obvious. You know, if you think about where you live, most people that live out in the suburbs in planned communities, developments or planned communities, have a little neighborhood center. You might have always a restaurant, sometimes a convenience store and a gas station, and maybe a service provider like a dentist, chiropractor, or, you know, laundromat, dry cleaner, things like that. Okay. They almost always have what's called an anchor tenant. Most of these operations have what's called an anchor tenant. The anchor tenant is the big kahuna and that little strip mall there. Okay, they're the ones driving most of the business, and as a result, the other businesses benefit from the anchor business's traffic. Okay, so if you think about it, would it not be a good idea for an investor who owns a little strip mall or a strip, you know, neighborhood center, to plan wisely and get an anchor tenant in there who's going to drive in a lot of business, maybe give them a discount on the rent, because as a result of them driving in so much business, you can easily attract the other retailers and charge them a premium on their rent. That's what you do. That's exactly what I did. Okay. So in any case, you know, I just want to bring that to your attention. So community centers, usually a little bit bigger. All right. You know, usually 3 to 6 miles out. Still have anchor tenants. You know, you're talking about more and more space here. Usually the space is between, I think it says right, 100 to 300,000 square feet. And they might land-wise with parking, all that, you know, 10 to 40 acres. So the previous one is smaller, 30,000 to 150,000 square feet, and 3 to 15 acres. Okay. My parents owned one of these years ago, and they retired about 15 years ago. They sold that operation. I was the vice president of that. Pretty good. Right on the corner, man, it was awesome. For those of you in Virginia, it was right on the corner of 33 and 29, a little place called Ruckersville. And now if you go by there, you'll see a massive Walmart, and what's the, forget the other, couple of other corner big gas station combination restaurant, convenience store operations. And the property that my parents owned, of course, that was a retirement because they were able to get quite a deal on that. So in any case, community center is a little bit bigger, always having an anchor tenant. Regional centers, you know, people are willing to drive further out. In other words, we'll drive, you know, 5 to 15 miles to get to a major shopping district, okay, where it's going to have your Lowe's, your Home Depot, and your Sam's Club, Costco, whatever the case is. You know, trying to think where. So I'm in London, Canada. In fact, I'll be up there this weekend, and you know, Canadian Tire is huge in Canada. In every shopping center, every big one seems like it has a Canadian Tire. They're the big kahuna, and they attract the other businesses. Okay. So in any case, you're talking about 400,000, 800,000 square feet. These things are pretty big, and they got a lot of land too. All right, super regional centers, 60 to 120 acres, 800,000 square feet or more. Okay. Again, they'll sometimes an area will have multiple anchor tenants, and this is a perfect example. A regional center. I know where I'll be this weekend. It's kind of northwest London, Ontario, where Fanshawe crosses Hyde Park. There's a huge Canadian Tire there, and also Walmart, Marshalls we have in the States and Canada. Okay. Winners, in other words, several anchor tenants and a lot of smaller operations. Okay. And of course, they bring a lot of business from the surrounding area. So in any case, you've also got your specialty centers. these are, I'm trying to think what would be a good specialty center here. Where was I recently? Let's see. Oh, out in Phoenix, okay? Out in Phoenix, Chandler, Arizona, Chandler Fashion, I think they call it Fashion Center, east of Phoenix, or right near Chandler. Huge. I mean, my gosh, the place is gigantic. And, you know, movie theaters. I mean, it just, the thing goes miles and miles and miles. And they've got a lot of acres and a lot of, a lot of specialty shops, okay? So in any case, I'm sorry, these are smaller. The ones up above there are the bigger ones. Okay, power centers. Generally, these are going to be, you have there's a term called category killers, right? So what that means is if you have a couple of big anchor tenants, okay, it's going to be nearly impossible to attract another big retailer in the same genre, right? In other words, you're very rarely will you get a Lowe's and a Home Depot right next door to each other. They purposely try to distance themselves, okay? I have seen them together, by the way. I remember years ago, Home Depot was king, and Lowe's started making a big, huge push into the industry, and basically we're trying to push Home Depot out. And Home Depot said, we're not having any of that, and they pushed back. So as a result, you'll have certain places around US and Canada where you have Home Depot and Lowe's closer together than you might normally anticipate, okay? But in any case, these power guys generally are gobbling up the vast majority of the space in those operations, and they'll have some other complementary retailers alongside them or around the corner, things like that. Most of these things, if you think about them, they kind of make sense. You can think of examples in your own areas, right? You got your theme parks, and this is being conservative. I mean, if you've ever been to Disney World in Florida, clearly it's way, 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 way bigger than 20 acres, right? I mean, I lost track. I used to know this figure by heart, but we're talking tens of thousands of acres, okay, for Disney World. Anaheim, where Disneyland is, on the other hand, has been sort of surrounded by other developments, so they can't really expand or grow anymore. When they first built that, guys, that part of Anaheim, Best Irvine, man, if any of you are in Sedgwick, if you're on, that was all, basically, orange groves. That's what it was way back then, So in any case, outlet centers. People will generally drive a long ways to get to outlet centers because they feel like they're going to get a good deal on their clothes going back to school shopping and things like that. And they do make good investments, by the way. I know people that have done that and done quite well. Usually they're more stable. In other words, in a shifting economy, people still need the staples. They still need clothes and shoes and things like that. Kids go back to school every single year. People get married every year. Babies are born every year. So you'll find in these outlet centers, all those stores that cater to all of the life's events that occur. Kids going back to school, babies being born, people getting married. That's how they thrive in a relatively, I don't want to say recession proof, but they're more stable than a specialty boutique outfitters, okay? Okay, let's get into some industrial space here. I want to ask you a question before we talk about industrial space. When it comes to industrial properties, can any of you see what might be a big risk in owning industrial properties? Just shout out or give me a question in your question box what you think that might be, why you think it may be more risky, and what particular risk you might think you might see owning industrial space. Okay, so let me give you a second to type that in. Pam says chemical spills. That's definitely one of them. Environmental challenges. The bigger issue, we got a couple more coming in. Here's the one I was looking for. Industrial space is very highly specialized, and what it means, what I mean by this is, you're only going to attract certain industries in certain parts of the country. All right, it doesn't make sense to put and I know if this is kind of a bad example, but plants that produce tar are obviously going to do much better down in the south than they will way up in the north, because way up in the north in Canada, we can only produce tar so many months a year. I mean, basically June, July, August, right? And we would produce more than that, but you know what I'm getting at. Down in Florida, they can produce tar year round, okay? So you're limited as far as what types of industries will go to certain areas. But more importantly, let's say an industry leaves town, and you got this giant operation, there's big giant, you know, conglomeration of industrial buildings out in the middle of nowhere, because generally they're going to be away from town, at least when they first build them. Then the town expands out to the industrial facility. But let's say the industry leaves town. Well, the challenge is you're going to have a hard time finding another suitor to lease that space. I mean, it can take years, and I've seen this happen. Industrial space was vacant for years. I mean, just look at a lot of the Rust Belt cities, Buffalo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Detroit. You know, between the 70s and the 90s, how many industrial sites just basically just started rotting away, vines, cobwebs just falling in, and a lot of them got destroyed. That was permanent. That was major change to our industry, and those properties suffered as a result. They basically had to be reclaimed, large swaths of them. So, in any case, so you can go to Urban Land Institute. It's uli.org if you want to get more information on this. Also, the National Association of Industrial and Office Properties, NAIOP. NAIOP.org is another great resource to get more information on this, get some resources for yourselves, some tools you can use, okay? Because what's interesting is, for some reason, this has been a strange issue, guys. Many of you have had investors coming to you dealing with properties in these different categories. So in any case, all this information I've had for several years, I just never had it in a one concise set like I do now. And we're going to publish this, but you guys just I'll get you the actual just draft here. I'll get you that tomorrow. So in any case, industrial space. I think there was another thing I want to show you here. We're doing pretty good on time. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. What are the basic needs of industrial space? Well, obviously, access to transportation. I mean, think about it. What would they need? They would need, at a minimum, trucking, you know, so access to major highways for trucking. How about if they have a lot of products or material that they ship and receive that has to be done via air travels? You got to be near an airport. Or how about by ship? You've got to be near a port, at least a river or major lake like any of the 5 Great Lakes, okay? Also zoning, you know, I know some of you are thinking, well, I've seen industrial space close into town, but I'm willing to bet that industrial space was there long before the town expanded out to the industrial space, because usually the zoning rules are pretty strict on industrial space because of things like what Pam brought up in Rolando, which are chemical spills, things like that. But also more importantly is access to labor. I mean, they need to be near a population center so they can attract employees. And there are some exceptions. You've probably seen this around North America in the last, probably since World War II. People go in the middle of nowhere and develop something knowing that they've got what people need. They got jobs, and people will actually commute and move to get the jobs. I mean, how many people remember their parents are moving to change jobs and things like that? It was rampant during the 70s and 80s. When our grandparents were around and great grandparents, years ago, that was unusual. I mean, people just stayed put for the most part. So in any case, having access to labor, and not just any old labor, but the type of labor that they need. It could be skilled, could be a certain level of academic, education, and or a trade or a skill in the trades world. So in any case, again, we can dwell on all these things. I just want to get through the high level stuff because you're going to get all this tomorrow. So let's see. Industrial. So here's where I want to kind of calm things down here. A lot of us, when we hear the word industrial, we're thinking big major operation, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that way. If you think about places like Pam, where you live up near State College, you've got operations just like right here in this picture. Generally a few thousand square feet. They serve a specific purpose. So you've got, here's the classifications: general purpose, special purpose, and single purpose, okay? For example, I know of a diesel engine plant near where I used to live, and all they did was produce diesel engines. That's all they did. So that was a single purpose plant. Special, that could also be considered special purpose too, by the way, but general purpose might be, what would that be? There are plants that produce multiple types of adhesives and also synthetic material that the auto industry uses for different purposes. So I know of a plant that produces that type of material. They started off serving, GM and Ford and all that. Well, they realized they had great products that other industries could use, so they started hiring salespeople to be account managers for these other industries. And I tell you, one company is called Walco, and I know those people personally, and they did quite well by taking what they already had and leveraging it, repurposing what they already had in the other industries. And believe me, they don't have a care in the world right now, at least financially. Okay, so in any case, you got general purpose, special purpose, and single purpose. All right, that's industrial. Let's see. Here's something here. How's that for an attractive looking building, right? By the way, I want to offer a suggestion here. If any of you are living, for those of you who are living near big towns or old towns that have places like this, believe it or not, those places actually can be repurposed. I've seen a couple of them be repurposed into storage facilities where people store their personal belongings or old cars, classic cars and things like that, okay? So always be creative. Think in terms of how the property can be used. If it's industrial, it might not be suitable to be turning into a condo complex or a loft apartments because of the nature of the site. But people who store classic cars, they just want them to be safe, clean, and undercover, and out of the elements. And they'll pay $100 a month for a space in these lots. I've seen them literally put parking lots in here. Pretty amazing stuff. So in any case, when it comes to manufacturing, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because most of us are not getting into this type of stuff. However, I did. I got into storage space, office. Personally did not own research and development, although I got into brokerage on that. But you got bulk, anything that's produced in bulk like stone, any type of stone you've seen, countertops, things like that, concrete, manufacturing, of course. People can manage. I mean, there's all kinds of examples of manufacturers. Johnson and Johnson, of course, the big motor companies. Office warehouse, and there can be, by the way, there can be combinations of office warehouse. I've seen that before. And of course, R&D, research and development, right? Research and development, believe it or not, sometimes will align themselves with local universities and colleges. And they take industrial space, and for example, trying to think of what I can think of. For you Californians, how about this? University of California, San Jose has a regular campus, and then way off far away, up on top of a bluff overlooking the Pacific, they have a facility there that's basically a marine research facility, and they have rescue animals. I actually got to take a little tour because one of my nephews was a grad student there in environmental sciences, and I got to see some rescue dolphins right up close. And it looks like a typical industrial space, but they're doing research and development. Okay. In any case. Of course, you've seen industrial parks. In order for these things to be approved, to be of value to a city or any community, they have to meet certain rules and regulations, and they have to be consistent with community goals. They have to be efficient. Basically, there has to be a concern for what's happening to the human race around these places. Okay, what about the values? How do they value the human race? Compatibility with natural environments. All these factors are taken into place, and an NEIOP helps you give definition to these things, right? Adequate utility service, landscaping, paved streets, the look of the building, the architectural control of the site, buildings and signage, and a management plan. So that's all your industrial space. And I wonder how we're doing here. Okay, I think we're okay. All right, I'm going to stop here, guys. Next session has to do with finance, and that's a whole different bailiwicks. But let me do this. I want to go back and check for questions. Everybody's saying the same thing back when I asked the question of what could be some of the issues, environmental issues, the economy. So Fassel hit that one on the head. Outsourcing the material. Thomas Slaterback, manufacturing has been on the decline in the U.S. And we're trying to do something about that, Thomas, obviously. And all this stuff that the government's getting involved in now, quite frankly, I know people are concerned about trade wars and everybody, for good reason. It's because of what's been happening over the last several generations with our trade agreements, different treaties and between different countries and the tariffs. For example, cars, we all drive cars. What's interesting is we love our German cars, right? Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, things like that. If you wonder why we pay so much over here, and if you go to Europe, you'll find out you don't pay nearly that much over there. In fact, over in Germany, a BMW is just like a, whatever, a Chevy Malibu over here. It's not that special of a car over there, okay? But my dad has done a lot of traveling over the years and worked for the government for decades and spent a lot of time in Europe. And I asked him sometimes, so why do people bring cars back from Europe, Dad? Why don't you just buy them here? Well, here's why. Germany imposes 4 times the tariffs on our cars that we send there than we do on their cars that they send here. In other words, we send Chevy Malibus over there. We're charged 4 times. We're charging them to send their BMWs over here. Well, I think what's happening is we're trying to kind of level the playing here a little bit. But there's different factors here. They don't have the population we have. But the fact is it has caused some issues like Tom brought up, and it's caused us a lot of harm over the years. By the way, we ship Germany ships 3 times as many cars to us as we ship to them. Again, partly due to the population, but also partly due because we don't ding them as much on the tariff. So in any case, a lot of that's changing. I think we'll see that changing in the next generation. It might not be this administration. It might be the next 2 or 3 administrations to pull it off. But they're trying to have the pendulum swing back the other way. Because if any of you have been around any of the big cities, like Pittsburgh, the 4 I mentioned earlier, Detroit, Buffalo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, they really got hurt a lot, particularly like, Detroit. Cleveland just seems to always, they just can't seem to dig out. So I'm not a political person, but I can see why we're doing some of the things we're doing. So in any case, enough of that subject. Back to this. Let's see if we check for other questions here. I think we are okay. So let's do this, guys. Let me know what you want to talk about next. I've got a few other subjects lined up. We've got a couple of guest speakers coming on. One is from Equity Trust, hopefully in July. Marcus, who did the tax lien and tax certificates, I'm going to have him come back because we need to redo that to re-record it. Number one, but also he's really good in the Airbnb space. And what's interesting is Airbnb has expanded into other genres. Okay, so how about that? And there's a lot of twists on Airbnb, how you can actually participate in Airbnb without having to spend a lot of money. So that's coming up. But I want to know what it is you guys want to talk about specifically related to the individual training programs, whether it's flipping, buying rentals, managing rentals, wholesaling, or of course being an investor agent. Give me some nitty-gritty details via email. So because if you do that on the chat box here, I won't see it after the session's over. So use the email to communicate those suggestions to me. Okay, Daryl, we got a question here from Daryl. Hang on one second. Daryl asking, okay, I booked my room for the mastermind. Excellent, Daryl. Hey, Daryl, I sent Floyd. Floyd Fulton was wanting to maybe grab a room. So hopefully you connected with him. Floyd is from Florida, actually. Okay, let's see. Shirley saying, looking forward to talking with you and seeing you when you get to New Jersey. Looking forward to talking with you and seeing, okay, get to New Jersey. Well, thanks, Shirley. Look forward to seeing you too. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I appreciate you participating tonight. We will see you next week, next Thursday night, the 21st. I will be in, where will I be? In Duluth, Georgia. Okay. So we'll see you then, guys. In the meantime, have a great rest of the week. God bless you and your families. I look forward to seeing you in Atlanta, June 29th, June 30th, and Sunday, July 1st for half a day. And for those of you in the mastermind group, we'll see you that Monday and Tuesday also. So come on in. And you guys coming in for the mastermind, if you're in the mastermind group, come on in a day early. Come in Saturday if you want. Come to dinner Saturday night. We're going to get together like we did the last couple times. And then you can maybe help some of the guys out on Sunday and be part of that Sunday kickoff lunch, okay? So I look forward to seeing you all. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.